Welcome to the Lounge Lizards podcast. It's so good to have you here. It's a leisure and lifestyle podcast founded on our love of premium cigars, as well as whiskey, travel, food, work, and whatever else we feel like getting into. My name is Gizmo. Tonight I'm joined by Rooster, Senator, Pagoda, and Bam Bam. And our plan is to smoke a cigar, drink some whiskey, talk about life, and of course, have some laughs. So take this as your 112th official invitation to join us and become a card-carrying lounge lizard. Plan to meet us here once a week. We're going to smoke a New World cigar tonight, share our thoughts on it, and give you our former lizard rating. We share the ADV origin story. We discuss yet another Fuente Padron Legends delay, and we discover a mobile cigar lounge business, all among a variety of other things for the next 90 minutes. So sit back, get your favorite drink, light up a cigar, and enjoy as we pair Old Forester 1910 Old Fine Whiskey with the ADVentura, the Navigator, in Pinzon. A Dominican Robusto tonight on the pod from a brand called ADVentura. It's the Navigator. The Vitola is called the Pinzon, and it's a 50 ring gauge cigar, of course, by 5.5 inches long. It's our first ADVentura on the pod tonight, boys.
Yeah, it's a pretty toothy looking cigar.
Yeah, rustic.
Yeah, very toothy. Yeah.
It is. We have a lot of listeners, and actually a lot of guys at our club too, that really, really like ADVentura cigars.
Yeah.
And it's all different kind of varieties. They have a bunch of different lines we can go through, but the coloring of the band, I guess, is a determining factor on the different blends and different things that they have. And this one's the white band with the blue accents.
Yeah.
And then there's the other one that's kind of like
It's black and gold.
black and gold.
Yeah.
Copper.
Copper.
Right?
Yeah, copper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a catchy logo. It's an eye catcher.
it is. It's really cool. Excited to smoke this tonight, boys. Let's cut this thing. See what we're getting on the cold draw on the wrapper.
Just before you get the cold draw, please smell the wrapper
And smell the
and
foot.
tell me it does not smell like a horse.
It smells exactly like a barn.
You know, I
Not a clean barn, by the way. This is
I
veering on the
disagree
dirty barn.
I disagree a bit. I kind of like it. It's a
No,
bit,
you may like it, but it
it's a
still
bit
smells
sweet.
like a bun. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
No, it definitely has that.
Yeah. Musty.
It's definitely musty.
Now, what's unusual, the cold draw, I'm not getting much.
I'm not either. And mine's a little tight.
Mine wide open.
Really.
So there'll be some inconsistent experiences tonight here.
Anybody else having a tight one?
Mine's open.
I'm wondering if I should cut another one because I have one right there.
There you go.
Maybe I'll do that, guys.
Or just do a giz card, and I think it'll.
It's not nice.
You don't want to try to take more off first?
I took a decent amount off, but it's like really tight, and I have a bunch of them, so I'll
All
just put this aside. I'll perfect draw it later. I won't make the listener suffer through that.
Just leave that for Rooster's cat.
He prefers Davidoff's.
He's a cigar rest.
Millennium.
Cigar rest.
Cold draw is pretty nice, guys. So I just cut a second one.
Yeah, it's nice.
First one was a little tight. I just don't feel like fighting it right now. This is it's interesting.
Some dry fruited
Mhm.
touch of it.
Yeah,
I get a little vanilla on the cold draw.
Yeah.
like a fig thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, boys, let's light this thing. The ADVentura, the Navigator in Pinzon. Again, it's a Robusto, 50 ring gauge cigar by 5.5 inches long.
What's a Pinzon?
That's the name of the Vitola. I'll have to Google it.
What do we know about the marca?
We know a little bit. I'll go into a bit of a history in a bit. The cool thing about it is it's a kind of a blend of, as they say, Swiss and Dominican traditions.
Interesting.
The one founder, the blender, I guess, is Dominican, and the founder is from Switzerland. And that's the kind of culture makeup that they're going for in the company. As they say, Dominican passion with Swiss precision. That's their line.
Pretty bold right off the light. Distinct.
Very interesting on the light. It's different, right?
Yeah.
To me, it's not that bold.
I don't think it's bold. I just think it's different. I think
get
it's got a unique
Get a
thing
lot
to
of
it.
unusual flavor I can't put my finger on.
Are you getting like spice?
No. Full flavor, like flavor, not body, but
It's a
flavor.
very interesting cigar on the light. So let's talk about the makeup of this cigar. The wrapper is San Andres Maduro from Mexico. The binder is Sumatra from Indonesia. The filler is a combination of tobacco from Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, and Ecuador. The aging on this, which is why I wanted to grab this one specifically, the raw tobacco is aged around 5 years, and the cigars are rested 5 to 6 months after rolling before they ship. They say it's a medium strength cigar, which I think so far is, on the light anyway, is pretty in line with what I'm getting.
Any flavor notes they call out?
Not really. I don't know. I'm just honestly confused by the cigar to start. I'm not getting any distinct flavor notes.
Yeah, like I said, I couldn't put my finger on what it is. It's not bad though.
So their notes on this cigar are, they say it offers a bouquet of mocha and roasted nut, and has all of the elements combined: leathery spice, hints of toffee and caramel, combined to linger and delight the palate.
Could be a potpourri of all those things hitting you at once.
It sounds like you're not getting like a distinct flavor note. It's hard to pick out.
I agree. It's not bad. I don't want the listener to think that we're
I
feeling
agree.
like this is a bad cigar. I mean, this is a very, very approachable cigar,
I
and I
agree.
think the flavor is robust, but I don't think that there's something,
Specific.
yeah, as you're saying, I don't think that you can point to one flavor note that's kind of raising its hand right now.
I would just modify that. I don't think you can pick out any flavor note, right? So like sometimes I'm getting a number of flavor notes and none of them is particularly dominant, but they're all kind of there and I can actually name them. I can't name any of them here. So like it's just a little odd. I guess what I'm wondering at this point is either sometimes when you have a cigar like this, you don't get much to start. Nothing's offensive, but nothing is really drawing me into the cigar. And then all of a sudden it just hits its stride and opens up and you start to really be able to pick out the notes. Or this could just be muddled and maybe we're not going to get really pronounced notes. And obviously that'll be disappointing, but the jury's still
Yeah.
out.
But then again, we're naive schoolboys.
Yeah.
Rooster is on a roll.
So Rooster's hot because actually it's gone now. So our friend and
He
friends
took
of-
it down?
Well, no, I'll explain. So our friend at El Habano, Rob Ayala, good friend of the podcast, good friend of the program, really nice guy and supporter, and obviously one of the premier tobacconists in the world.
We love Rob.
We
Oh,
love
yeah.
Rob. So he puts up each week a weekly, like a weekend listening playlist. And it's, sometimes it's Cuban music, sometimes it's music from something else. Sometimes it's a YouTube video he's seen or enjoyed, or a documentary. Just kind of weekend, hey, pair this with your cigar this weekend, check it out. It happened that this past weekend was the Lounge Lizards podcast. And he put it up and said, hey, check it out. This is what the guys are doing. He put up the episode, I believe it was from 2 weeks ago, the one with the Buna Havane, and I think it was the Ramon Ionis.
That's right.
That's
Number
right.
3 was the
Yes.
one that he shared. And we got some great comments on it. And unfortunately, you can't see it now, but one of them made Rooster very hot. And he said, the gentleman on the forum said, I generally like their podcast, but sometimes they lack knowledge and seem like excited, naive schoolboys.
Yowza.
He's out.
I don't think he wants it.
Rooster, what are your thoughts on that comment?
I just think
I don't know. I want to meet him in person.
it's like I believe he probably is an abuelo. He's a geriatric.
Could be with a vast store of knowledge.
Yeah. So we seriously though, we do appreciate the support from Rob and all of our friends over at FOH. Such a great cigar community. It's just the best of the best over there, I think.
Agreed.
So you guys getting anything from this cigar?
So I have to say, I'm starting to.
Yeah, I am too.
I'm starting to get mocha.
I am too. I
Yep.
was just going to say, I'm getting a little coffee thing,
Yep.
like a little sweet coffee thing, especially on the nose. I feel like I'm getting that caramel thing, that sweetness that they talked about on the nose.
On the nose, on the burn line, caramel and mocha.
Yep.
But on the draw, on the finish, I'm getting almond and nutty for me, not mocha yet. But up front, it's still a little confused.
I get nuts on the finish too, though.
Yeah.
I see that.
This could be the most accurate vendor or manufacturer provided tasting notes that we've ever had on this podcast.
You know what's funny? I feel like I've noticed with this cigar, I felt like I had to really like this a lot, like for a while.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think when I lit it, it was very hot and it just struggled to deliver any flavor at, I guess, maybe that amount of heat.
May need to rest.
And I just kind of let it hang out, didn't draw it for a while, and I'm enjoying this in a much slower pace now, and I feel like the flavor is coming out much easier that way.
Accurate.
Well, I think the cigar, it feels significant in your hand. You think about compared to other Robustos that we've held in our hand, at least the two that I've had, the first one I cut that's a little tight in this one, it's heavy.
Yeah.
Like it's a densely packed Robusto, versus some of the others that we have. Think about this compared to an Exclusivo. This weighs probably 25 to 30% more than an Exclusivo does.
Have you retrohaled yet?
I have.
And?
It's pretty good. It's like good aged Dominican tobacco.
Oh.
I know it's a combo of a bunch of things, but
it's a bit sharp for me, which is
it?
unusual because I retro every draw of every cigar that I have. It's a bit sharp.
I don't disagree that it's sharp, but I don't dislike it.
No, I can't say I hate it. How much is this cigar?
So this is $10.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, $10.
Pretty moderately priced.
Yeah, and that's actually, I'm not counting Atlantic VIP, I think, which I got it even less. Atlantic is such a great retailer, but the normal price that you could find these anywhere is somewhere around 10. You're probably going to maybe in the city, they'd probably be 13 or 14 with all the tax, but these are generally around $10.
Pretty well priced.
Yeah. I think it's a fair price for this. So the Navigator line from ADVentura is the second line from ADV, which is, as they show on the band here, is kind of their nickname for their company, ADV. They say it's the most complex of all the blends, which is, I'm assuming, why we've had so many listeners recommend this specific line, the Navigator. Again, we read the tasting notes. There's 4 different Vitolas in this line. There's the Ponce de Leon 6x60. That's a big cigar. The Francis D 44 ring gauge by 6 inches. The Cabral, which is a 54 ring gauge cigar by 6. And the Pinzon, which is 50 ring gauge by 5.5, which was what we're smoking tonight. They have quite a bit of lines over there at ADVentura. They have 7. They have the Explorer, the Conqueror, the Royal Return, the Barbaroja Invasion, the La Lleona. I knew it was going to get me.
Schoolboy.
I knew.
Naive.
I'm excited though.
I've been waiting for this, by the way, all day.
I know you have. The Piece of Heart, and of course the Navigator that we're smoking now. So we'll see how this does tonight. But like I said, we've gotten a lot of listener requests for ADVentura, so I'm glad that we're doing it tonight. So the company was founded in 2016. Like I said, it was founded by a national Swiss cigar retailer named Marcel Noble and Henderson Ventura from the Dominican Republic, which is pretty cool that the founder is from Europe, and the master blender that he founded the company with is out of Dominican, that's a pretty unique thing. I don't think we've ever heard of anything.
I don't think we have.
It's like H. Upman.
Like Davidoff.
Well, he was a German banker, right?
You know what it is?
Davidoff has the same thing.
Switzerland,
Yeah.
That's
true.
Henrik Kellner and then Eliados.
Mm-hmm.
So they're both Dominicans.
So they're branding, like as you kind of got from the different lines, the different markers that I listed under their brand, it's often has themes of like exploration of adventure. When you go on their website, there's like a pirate. So that's kind of their thing, is like exploring and adventuring through different tobacco and blending and, providing the smoker with a bunch of different experiences. And they're always using tobacco from different countries. Like we said, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Nicaragua, Mexican wrapper on this one, Indonesia, which is in this one. So they're sourcing tobacco from all over the world and just trying all different kinds of blends to kind of come up with what they're hoping is a dynamic flavor profile.
So you said for this cigar, Mexican wrapper. What about the binder and filler?
Mexican wrapper from San Andres. It's Maduro. The binder is Sumatra from Indonesia, and the filler is a combo of Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, and Ecuador.
Wow.
So there's 5 different sources of tobacco in this cigar we're holding right now.
They've traversed the earth for their product.
And that's what I was thinking about. Think about how many miles that those bales of tobacco have been.
But you'd have to know what you're going to get from that product that you're sourcing from all over the world. How do you know that? How long? 2016? This has been out?
Yeah, the company was founded in 2016.
So they haven't been out very long.
They haven't. This line I'm thinking is five years old or so.
Yeah, they're buying product from all over the world.
Yeah.
How do they know what they're going to produce, right?
Yeah.
It's an experiment.
It is, but at the same time, how young this company is, they're benefiting from all the people who have done this before. So like we've had cigars that have, tobacco from Indonesia and all these different places that are certainly not as prominent as like Dominican or Nicaraguan tobacco, but I'm sure
Oh, well, that makes sense.
they're trying others.
They're sourcing product where others have sourced in the past.
For sure.
So that makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, I guess the founder just says, listen, I'm looking for this kind of a cigar with these kind of flavor notes. And the blender tries to blend it, put it together, and, put out a prototype. And you go from there.
Yeah. And I mean, from my own experience, just experiencing the tasting panel with the guys on FOH as they develop the various cigars for Bon Roberts, Friends of El Habano, the Mofo lines, just seeing their process through the last year of how much iteration they do. They send us one of the cigars and it's like, this is blend 47. This one's blend 98. This one's blend number 3.
Yeah.
It's just a constant,
The process. Sure.
roll it, smoke it,
Yeah.
does this work or not? And then you're hoping that it's going to age and change and it become even greater,
Do they tweak it like after your inputs?
They did, yeah. So there were actually a few of the cigars. I think we got 8 or 10 originally, and then they constantly, it was a constant flow for about 8 months of the year. And then we'd get on Zoom every Sunday night, the tasting panel. I think it was 8 or 10 of us, and we'd get on and discuss everything. And there were a few cigars that it just didn't resonate with us. And then we would, they would go and make adjustments and send us new versions of it.
Breaking news.
I got to tell you.
We have a wag
So
from BAM.
the mocha
Yeah,
just
you are
hit me.
wagging. Did it?
I haven't liked the cigar the moment I lit it, but now it is getting better and better. And that mocha, literally, the last 2 draws, delicious, and it's very surprising.
I agree with BAM. So I had the same reaction. I mean,
Wow.
First smelling the wrapper, it smelled like a heavily used barn, not on my speed. On the light, I wasn't getting any flavor, just tobacco essentially. But as I'm smoking this now well into the first quarter, approaching the first third, the notes are becoming much more defined. It's smooth, it's enjoyable. And I think the thing I appreciate the most, it's unique.
Yeah.
Like I would not compare what I'm experiencing right now to any other cigar
So
I've had.
I totally agree. The mocha I'm getting here, I haven't ever had in another cigar. I just haven't.
Yeah.
It's a little unusual, and for me, I have to smoke the cigar very slowly to capture that. Very slowly.
So what is happening when you speed up? When you're going too fast, what are you experiencing that's different?
So when I'm going very slow and I retrohale, it's smooth and it's delicious. But as I go quickly, I get that burn, right?
The bitter taste.
It's bitter. It's bitter through the retrohale, and it's actually bitter on the draw. So
Yeah.
this guy needs time. You've got to take your time with the cigar.
Yeah, I think the same here. I think for me, the aroma is so much more distinct as opposed to the taste. And
Aroma's
I'm
delicious.
getting there, yeah. And so I've just been waiting for that mocha blast too. But I can see, it's becoming a little sweeter. But I haven't been able to really define what the flavor is.
Yeah, it's just changed a little bit. It just became a little sweeter, like you
Yeah.
said.
I don't
And you get that
remember-
coffee flavor.
Like it's almost like a threshold that you pass. I don't remember many cigars where you hit a wall and it improves. I haven't had that experience so dramatically like this.
I just give them credit because I know we've smoked other cigars on the pod where there's tobacco from Indonesia, which I like single out as something pretty exotic.
It
Right?
is.
That's got to be in 10% of cigars, probably, just guessing. And I don't recall us ever loving a cigar that had like such a crazy mix of different tobaccos. The one exception being the Pledge of Allegiance, that
Sure.
EP Creo cigar. But this is just really well done. I'm genuinely surprised, and I am enjoying it.
It's also a lot of the coffee growing regions are also like really good tobacco growing regions.
Mm.
Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, Cuba,
Sure.
Indonesia.
Sure.
Yeah,
So it's interesting.
Yeah. They have the weather, right? For that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the soil.
So you know what else is cool too? I want to mention this about the blender Henderson Ventura from the Dominican. He's actually one of the youngest master blenders in the entire tobacco industry.
Hmm.
I think he's in his 20s,
Wow.
which is pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
That's impressive.
So
Good
the
for
other
him.
thing too I wanted to note is that the cigars from ADVentura are rolled at Tabacalera William Ventura Factory in the Dominican Republic, which is where cigars from brands like Room 101 and Caldwell Cigar come from. So
Nice.
they don't have their own facility. They are
Mhm.
outsourcing their
Like many other
like
manufacturers.
many
have.
manufacturers are.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think this is really interesting. It's not often that we're stumped on flavor profile and experience, but I think that it's
It's getting better.
It's
as you
getting
smoke.
better.
Sure
and
is, yeah.
It's piqued my interest so far.
I'm also surprised at how bright white the ash is.
Yeah,
and
the burn line is
Fantastic.
The
It's
construction
structurally
is
sound.
great.
It's very well made. Yeah.
I mean, everybody just like razor sharp burn.
That's awesome.
I'm impressed with the construction.
So I've had these probably for about 2 months now in the tower. So they've probably been sitting at about 65.
Mm.
But I think the construction on this cigar is excellent. I mean, and that ash isn't going anywhere. Like I'm very confident that it's not going to be all over me.
Well,
You look very confident.
You're always very confident.
That's
about
true.
that.
That's true. Stupidly.
Never stupid.
So, boys, I think we have to tell the listeners, and just in case it sounds a little different for any reason, this is our first podcast, and this is episode 112.
Yeah, man.
the Gizmo Lounge.
We are in the Gizmo Lounge.
The Gizmo Lounge.
Gizmo. This is the first time we recorded here. 1086 had some stuff going on tonight for the holidays, and
I love it here.
you like it?
I love it here.
What are the pros and cons, boys? Hit me.
I mean, it's sponsored by Kirkland, by Costco. We've got Kirkland water. He offered us Kirkland.
We have a part owner right here.
Rooster's
And the biggest thing is you don't have to pack any equipment and put it away and
That's
load.
true.
That's true.
No
That's-
loading, unloading involved.
That's
Yeah.
nice. Yeah,
It is a longer drive for us, but that's okay.
I've been doing it for
You have.
a
You
long
know,
time.
you deserve a break. You do. Honestly, it's very peaceful.
It's a good option.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very good option.
I'm finally sitting in a comfortable chair.
That's
This is great.
Well, you two guys have the leather chairs, I see. Strategically
Yeah, so I
planned.
have two like Adirondack outdoor chairs.
Yep.
I don't know what you would call that, like a
It's
composite wicker,
It's wicker,
composite wicker or something. And then I have two matching recliners that are always in the Gizmo Lounge here that I
Yep.
use. And if a guest comes or whatever, Mrs. Gizmo's dad
Mhm.
often is here. So I have the matching recliners for the.
This is
for the
very
setup.
comfortable.
Those are good chairs, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Adirondacks are
designed.
nice. Yeah.
And it's heated.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I just feel like the garage setup, when we're recording anywhere, I mean, even when we're recording at our clubhouse, there's other people around. It's easier to get distracted. I feel like when you're in the garage, whether it's at Gizmo's, my place
Yep.
before, like
Oh, yeah.
it's just you're so focused on the cigar, what we're
So-
doing.
The Senator Lounge, that was fantastic. And I'm feeling that, Sam, reminiscing today.
Oh, that's good.
Like he said, we can focus on ourselves and just us.
Yeah.
No interruptions.
agree.
Yeah.
It's
It's
a
great.
nice change.
It is. It is.
That's good. Well, it's a good option to have here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow, Giz.
Hey, listen, I'm going to be here. So, boys, let's talk about our pairing tonight. I'm a little nervous about this because, like
Must
the
we?
cigar,
Must we talk about it?
we must, Bam.
All right.
It had a little bit of a funky nose on it, kind of like the barnyard in the cigar. When I took a whiff, when I was pouring it out of the bottle, I was a little nervous.
So I had the same reaction from the bottle, but when you put it in the glass and you put some ice in there, then smell the nose. I mean, it's very traditional bourbon.
Yeah, it is.
So, what are we drinking? We're drinking the Old Forester 1910
Right. Straight bourbon whiskey.
straight bourbon whiskey.
93 proof.
Let's try it. It's kind of boring.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, it's a little medicinal to me.
It's a little boring to me. Like I'm not getting a lot of. It's not rich.
I don't know. I have a slightly different take. I mean, I'm not loving it, but I don't get medicinal. I can see why you said it's boring. I mean, to me, it's just very traditional bourbon, but it leans on like the earthier, woodier side of bourbon,
That's
not
true.
the like aggressively like sweet, heavy corn-based
Mhm.
bourbon. So I like that it's more balanced and not super sweet and a little bit dry, but it's not that exciting.
I would not drink this in a winter. For me, this would be a spring, maybe even summer drink with ice, because there is some refreshing elements to it that could work during that time of year.
Interesting. I kind of feel the opposite.
Not me.
Well, I'm agreeing with Bam. I don't think it's very viscous. It doesn't really coat
It's
my
light.
mouth in the way I'd want it to,
Which
especially like you're saying when it's cold
would
out like
lend
it is now.
itself to a warmer time frame.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. So
I
then
agree.
we're thinking of it differently. So agree that there's not enough body to make this that attractive for the fall or winter. For me, just the flavor profile, the like earthy woodiness of it,
I get that on
I
the
like
finish.
that. Yeah, and
I get that on the finish. On the
that's for me like a very fall. Like I think of like the leaves and the trees, and I
Yeah.
like a woody spirit. Where in the summer, like I want something that's more like floral,
Mhm.
fruity.
But on the
So-
front, I get a lot of floral and fruit on the front. On the finish, it gets smoky and woody for me.
I don't think I put a lot of ice in it. Maybe 4 or 5 chips. I really didn't put that much. It just isn't. It isn't delivering much for me. How much was this bottle? Ben?
Try it neat also.
This, I
I should.
believe, if I remember correctly, $46.
Okay.
Not expensive.
And you said it's 43 proof, or excuse
93.
me, 93 proof. Okay.
But do you get the coffee now? It's become coffee, and I think the sweetness has subsided. It's got the
Earthy, more earthy for you.
yeah, more earthy coffee kind of a.
I mean, for me, it's hard to distinguish what's mocha, what's coffee.
I don't know.
what's
It's coffee for me,
You know,
yeah.
like how do you? I mean, how do you tell what is mocha? Mocha to you is
To
what?
me, it's when it's like coffee meets chocolate.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is for
So
me.
you mean like a sweeter?
Yes.
sweeter.
A sweeter coffee,
with some
not a
sweeter
bitter
note.
coffee.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you're
no, that makes sense.
and you're capturing-
kind of like milk chocolate.
Right.
Yeah.
But with some coffee notes that like makes
Right.
it mocha.
That makes sense. And by
And-
the way, I just had a
yeah.
mocha.
Okay.
right there.
You have it here. He's got a Starbucks cup. I didn't even see that.
There you go.
All right, boys, let's talk about a little history here of Old Forester. Found some cool stuff about it. They have an interesting history. I mean, number one, it was first introduced by a guy named George Garvin Brown in 1870, which is pretty incredible. They claim to be the first bourbon sold exclusively in sealed bottles, which they say is an innovation that signaled its authenticity and quality at a time when whiskey was commonly sold in barrels or jugs
And buckets.
and buckets. It's produced by the Brown Forman Corporation, which makes a bunch of other spirits. Pretty incredible, actually. Jack Daniels, Woodford Reserve, Finlandia Vodka. And here come the pronunciations. Chambord.
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 Oh,
Jesus Christ.
Chambord.
Oh my
Sham-
lord!
Oh
What is
my
it?
gosh. Every tennis
Chambord.
fan is just so upset hearing this.
It's a round bottle.
There's more to come
That's
here.
what's in the honeydeuce at the US Open.
Oh, okay.
Come on, geese.
Benriach, Glendronach, and Glen Glasgow Scotch whiskies. El Humidor and Herradura. That's one I know.
Yeah.
Corbel Champagne. They distribute that, a sparkling wine. Canadian Mist, which is a Canadian whiskey. Slane or Slane Irish whiskey, and Ford's Gin. Obviously, the big ones out of that, Jack Daniels and Woodford Reserve. And yeah, it's funny. We were actually talking about Woodford Reserve the other night because our friend at the lounge, Lizard Henry, was making us old fashions with Woodford.
We
And
haven't reviewed that.
It was I think we
No, we've done
we
Woodford.
did. Yeah,
Oh,
we did
have we?
Woodford.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
a
Oh,
while
okay.
back. A while
Okay.
back. It is such an excellent bourbon when
Yep,
mixed in a
mixed.
spirit.
Yeah.
Woodford has got to be the best mixing bourbon, period. I mean,
I like the Bullet.
I
Yeah.
was going to say, Bullet is like the only other one that would compete with it. Like those two, it's in every cocktail, and they're just delicious. And Woodford, to its credit, I mean, you know, you've heard me bitch and complain about the like drink options on flights, and as they've become lower quality and more limited, you see Woodford Reserve as opposed to like Dewar's White Label. I'll drink Woodford over ice any day
Any day.
over like a Scotch that claims to be, you know,
Oh, yeah.
legitimate that like Dewar's White Label is not. So, yeah, I give a lot of credit. Those are just really accessible bourbons. And the funny thing is, there was something is when you were sending around some of the history on this, I know this can't still be the case because I'm pretty sure that it's Woodford or Bullet now that's like the official
Of Kentucky
bourbon of the
Derby.
Kentucky Derby. But
Yeah.
apparently this used to be, which that's pretty high praise. I mean, that, you know, like you're at the Kentucky Derby, like a mint julep. You're not going to put a bad bourbon in there. So that's a real endorsement of the brand.
Sure.
But I think that this would mix very well. I just think with a little ice, pairing it with, you know, a medium cigar like we're having tonight, it's just not
No.
standing up like it should be, I think.
I totally agree with you.
And the other
Yeah.
problem too, and I think we're spoiled a little bit. Well, last week or the week before, we did Weller, which
true.
ended up as one of the best drinks we've ever done on the podcast.
That was
it was
fabulous.
incredible, and I've
Yeah.
actually been thinking about that a lot. So in my brain, of course, I'm now comparing the Weller that we had, the special reserve, to this
Mhm.
1910 from Forester's. It's just not. They're not in the same league.
That Weller was the first bourbon that I purchased after we reviewed it for sipping consumption
Yep.
in I don't even know how many years. I mean, probably 10 years. since I would have like bought a bourbon to sip.
It's also twice the price.
It is. Well, on the primary market. So if you're fortunate enough to get Weller, from an actual retailer that you're getting it direct, I think it's $20 or $30.
You can't find it.
You can't find it.
No,
now,
no.
if you're in Kentucky or Texas, I think you might be able to get it a little
Probably.
easier than we can
Yeah.
up here in the
It's
Northeast.
like a
but-
Rolex.
Exactly.
It's true. It's actually true.
The secondary market is crazy. And it's funny, we talk about this kind of false scarcity. I think we talked about that a little bit with the Weller, and we've talked about that with Eagle Rare, and we've talked about with Blanton's and some of the other stuff. It's this false scarcity that these manufacturers create.
Yeah.
Just charge the price it needs to be, eliminate the secondary market
And give it to us.
and just make more of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really a crime because, look, if Scotch started doing that, I would be so disappointed. I mean, it would legitimately impact my purchasing habits
Agreed.
because I would just be pissed off. There's no reason for that. And for Scotches that need to be aged 10 years, I should say minimum, right? The overwhelming majority are 10 plus.
Mhm.
These bourbons are only aged for a few years.
Yeah.
There's no reason that they can't be producing in that volume.
100% agree.
I mean, it's just silly.
Yeah.
But do you think that's why, like, at least in the Northeast, at least I find a lot of the guys to be drinking a lot more Scotch because the availability is still greater than really good bourbons. And,
That's a good point.
it's just interesting because if you were to speak to a lot of the guys, they don't mind trying bourbons, but and especially with cigars because they tend to be slightly sweeter.
There aren't many
Yeah.
good ones.
No,
No, it's so true. I mean, guys I've met that are like really, really serious about bourbon, deep down the rabbit hole. These guys all, the way that we have like online groups that we buy and sell cigars on that are a very smaller, limited group, they have that for bourbon.
Yeah. They
And
trade.
they do.
Yeah.
It's
And collect.
crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. And I say that because it shouldn't sound crazy because we do that with cigars, but there's no other spirit that I'm aware of that does that.
There is a lot of Scotch clubs that do that as well. A
But
lot.
You can get. I have never encountered a Scotch that I can't find.
Apparently, there are some
Ever.
extraordinarily rare old Scotches.
Yeah,
in
the
the world
single-
that people
the
pursue.
single
Oh,
barrels.
well, yeah. I mean, if
you
we're
know,
going to
yeah.
spend 10,000, 20,000 on a bottle, sure, there's
Yeah,
that kind of
that's true.
craziness.
That's true.
But I mean, for stuff that like most people, would
Can-
pursue and
right.
spend,
Can attain. Yeah.
there's none of that with Scotch. I mean, you
Mm.
can buy it all on a shelf somewhere at a liquor store, near you, where the fact that you can't pick up so many of these bourbons that people are literally having to trade and ship this stuff all around the country and even the world. I mean,
you imagine?
I have a friend who literally has someone he knows in Italy that is, and it's crazy to think this story was so wild. Someone in Italy who has an easier time getting their hand on some like ultra rare expensive bourbon than he does here on the East Coast of the
Wow.
United States of America, and has to pay to go get it there
That's
and ship
crazy.
it all the way over here to
Yeah,
him. I mean, that's
it's-
wild.
So
not
what
right.
what is the mechanism that's doing that? Is it the manufacturer trying to inflate the market here in the States? Do they have some sort
It
of
could be licensing agreements.
distribution?
Possibly. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know,
get
but
it.
the thing
I
that's
don't know.
strange to me about the whole thing is just, the manufacturer is just charging a fixed, reasonable price essentially to everyone who's eventually going to, sell it, right, and distribute it. They're not getting a cut of that outrageous, markup that's being put on these bottles because they're limited and there's such high demand. So I just don't know, like, why the manufacturer, why the distiller wouldn't just try to aggressively increase production and just grow their overall pie. Like, they're not getting that extra markup.
Yeah.
That's only benefiting, the local liquor store or
It's true.
the distributor.
It makes no sense.
unless it's regulated or something, or they have some
It could
kind
be. I
of
mean,
specifications.
the bourbon thing in Kentucky is weird. I mean,
Well, the one part of it that's problematic for me, these retailers should not be able to price gouge. I mean, the fact that,
agree.
like, I can't believe hearing that some of these bourbon bottles are only $30, $40. And that's the MSRP. Most scotches we drink aren't anywhere near that cheap. Yet they'll
more than
resell
double
these
usually.
for like $90 a bottle. I mean, that's crap. They shouldn't be able to do that. You don't see that with scotch, right? Like a Macallan 12 now retails for what, like $80, $75? The
That's-
most,
yeah.
even if you're in New York City
That's
or somewhere
75,
expensive,
70, $78.
you'll see it
yeah.
for 90.
Yeah.
You're not going to see a Macallan 12 for double the price
No.
anywhere in the United States, at least. Certainly internationally, you will.
I have an interesting anecdote that ties to this that just happened to me this past week. So I was transacting some cigars with a guy on one of our groups and I was just moving some stuff that I just needed to make space in my humidor for some of the Cuban customs that we brought back with us that have been in Tupperware. I want to move them in my humidor, so I'm making some room. So I did the transaction. I moved some stuff, and he goes, are you a flipper of cigars? I said, honestly, no. This is probably the second or third box I've transacted all year. Like, I just don't do that when I think that speaks for all of us. Like, when we get something in our humidor, the intention is to smoke it.
We keep it. Yeah.
Yeah, we keep it. And he goes, well, I'll be honest with you. He said, I flip bourbon on the secondary market. He said, I buy it real cheap. I sell it for 3 or 4 times this. And he said he finances a trip to Aruba every year.
3 or 4 times the price?
For his entire family. He finances an entire trip to Aruba for his entire family just by transacting bourbon, in his spare time on the weekends.
Wow.
On some of the groups that he's in.
Wow.
And it's just like, it's crazy to me that, like you're saying, forget the ethics of that. We don't need to distill that down. But it's crazy to me that the manufacturers leave that money on the table.
That's the thing. And again, I actually don't have a problem with individuals doing
I don't
that,
either.
right? Like, you can't ever prevent that. That's impossible. That's going to happen in every consumable good in history.
If there's demand for it, good for them.
Right. The fact that it happens from actual retailers who are authorized to sell this product, I mean, there should be some clause that you just can't.
Agree.
It reflects poorly on the brand. If they're setting the price at 30 or 40 a bottle, it's for a reason. That's what they think it should be worth.
Yeah.
And that's what they want it to be at, so it's accessible for people.
And
if you're a retailer that's going to double or triple the price, there should just be a strict clause. You cannot exceed 30% of the MSRP, essentially, that we set. And I think that would keep it a lot more accessible to more people and just the whole process fair. Now, on the gray market, sure, there'll be individuals who, if you want it now, you'll pay 2-3 times. But I mean, for an actual retailer, that's crazy.
You stopped yourself from saying it, but it should be regulated.
Yeah.
It really should be.
So why? I mean, what's the reason? I mean, why can't they produce more? Is it shortage of raw material? I mean, there's not enough.
I can't imagine. There's wheat, rye, corn. I can't imagine that anybody's having difficulty getting that. Even if they're paying a little bit of a premium, clearly the market is willing to bear that extra cost. If it's 10, 20%, like, we're talking about a 3 or 4x markup on what the MSRP of these spirits are.
Could it be a shortage on the bourbon barrels?
That's a great question. I don't know what I don't know what's causing it, but it makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
And then you look at the real extreme end, like a Pappy Van Winkle, which they release so little of it, and the secondary market is like 10x, I think, probably what the MSRP is. It's crazy.
It's insane.
It's crazy.
It's like $1,000.
I mean,
right?
the only
It's a lot of
reason that
money.
this doesn't change is because the overwhelming majority of these bourbon brands, they're owned by large companies that have a whole portfolio of bourbon brands.
Mm.
And so for them, it's like, okay, if I'm moving, Bullet and Woodford at an insane rate, I mean, I can't imagine how much in a year gets consumed of
it's
those
gotta
two
be
brands.
crazy. Yeah.
And so they're like, for these other portfolio brands, like, yeah, we want to move them, but like, we have our cash cow. So there's just not the same incentive for them as a manufacturer to like really aggressively ramp up production of that when they're roughly going to be priced ironically similarly, even though I think the quality is much higher on like Weller and some of these other brands. So I think for them, it's like, why bother?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, a cool story about the actual bourbon that we're drinking tonight, the 1910 Old Fine Whiskey, as they call it, from Old Forester. So the name 1910 originates that there was a fire on the bottling line, which halted production of Old Forester on October 22nd, 1910. Mature whiskey ready to be bottled instead was stored in a secondary barrel. What came from that was a delightful whiskey, I guess just from putting it in the second barrel, changed the flavor a little bit. They realized this after the fire, and that was the origination of 1910. So now, to mimic this, what they call historic bottling, this expression undergoes a second barrel experience before it's bottled. So that's the difference. It's a double barrel bourbon. Now, what's funny is I'm not really tasting anything complex or special about this bourbon. You think about some of the scotches that we drink, you can really, you can taste that sherry cask. You can taste that secondary experience, the barrel experience.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not getting that out of this.
No.
Are you guys?
But very drinkable. Very
It's good,
easy
it's
to
good.
enjoy,
I
yeah.
mean,
It's easy to drink. And like I said, for me, I would slot this in if I was given it at a party in the spring and summer. No problem.
I agree
Yeah. To
completely.
be clear, I don't think it's bad. I'm
No.
not hating this, but to Gizmo's point, it's not overly complex and
Yeah,
it's
It's
not all that.
reasonably priced.
it's true.
Like, I guess the best way I can say this, if I were given this blind after even having it now, right, knowing what this tastes like, I still wouldn't be able to pick it out because it's not distinct enough from other bourbons.
Correct. I think this would be another really good mixing bourbon as well.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
the price, though, how much is Woodford?
Like
30s.
30?
36,
It's
maybe
less
a bottle,
expensive
38.
than this.
Yeah, it's quite a bit less expensive than
Yeah.
this. And Bullet's even less than that.
And
right?
honestly,
And
Woodford
yeah.
on a rocks.
I
yeah.
like Woodford.
It's
I
pretty
do like
enjoyable.
Woodford, yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
But again, for me, I've really been obsessively thinking about that Weller we had.
Oh yeah.
And I actually got a bottle of the more special one coming,
right.
the 107 for the podcast. We're going to do that probably in the first quarter of the year. So
Great.
that'll be nice.
Awesome.
So, boys, we're about halfway through here on the ADVentura, the Navigator in Pinzon. What do you think?
I like it.
I'm enjoying it.
It's just getting better and better.
I'm enjoying it. And I'm thinking about where I would slot this in, or would I slot this in? And I don't know if I have an answer for that yet at the halfway point. Like it's not
So
it's not
do you mean
exciting me enough yet.
slotting it in at a sit down where you're going to have 3 or 4 cigars in the evening, or just in
In
your
general.
rotation? Okay.
Am I going to go and buy more of these?
Right.
At the halfway point, I don't know if I would.
Yeah.
This to me is kind of, where I would put like that Oliva V that we had. Like that's where it kind of would slot is like a pre-Padron, like slotting right before
Okay.
a Padron, probably after a Davidoff of some kind, maybe. But I just don't know if I'm going to get more of these. I don't know. We'll see as it progresses past the halfway point.
Yeah, I didn't love the first, like the initial,
Neither did I.
the first third of the cigar. Then it got better,
Yeah.
and now it's like kind of, I don't know. It's not great, but it's not bad. So would
Yeah.
I buy more? I don't know. I doubt it.
Kind of like it now, I have to say.
Yeah, it's a good cigar. I think
Yeah.
it's very serviceable. And here's, I think, the point that needs to be made. I understand why we've gotten so many emails about the cigar and why people like it. Is it's really unique, I think, in its flavor profile. Clearly, that blend of 5 different tobaccos that are in this, it's very, very, it stands on its own. I just don't know if it's for my palate,
Yeah, I mean, the occasion I'm thinking of, I'm not at all convinced that I'll buy this, but you've heard me say this before. Sometimes the utility of when we do these cigars that especially I've never tried and many of us haven't, it's when I'm traveling and I go into a cigar shop and I have to buy there and they don't allow you to bring
Yeah.
in your own stuff. If I saw this from the first half of this, would I pick this up and smoke it and not be dissatisfied, be relatively satisfied? Sure.
Mhm.
Would it slot in my daily rotation yet? No. But
Well, that's the beauty of what we're doing. We're learning a lot about cigars that we probably never would have tried. So when you're out and about, you find something that it works if you're stuck without a stick.
Yeah, I think this would be good for like an outdoor event, and you have a lot of guys coming out who want to,
Mhm.
just engage in cigars. For $10, not a bad.
I do think there is value here at $10.
I
I think
agree
that's
with
a
you.
good event. Like if you're doing one of your
Dude.
events, Bam,
Most of those guys are beginner smokers. They would like this. And
Yeah.
I would smoke it with them.
and it's very unique.
Yeah.
I just think the wrapper is so like it feels corrosive. Really, I don't even know.
When you say corrosive, what do you
No,
mean?
it's like my fingers are feeling like the veins and.
Oh, like
it's
it's
a
rough?
bit, it's a bit rough.
Toothy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
toothy.
Very sensitive tonight.
Today I am.
his beautiful skin is being
It
corroded.
is. It's being punctured by the wrapper of the cigar.
Do we have insurance?
Workman's comp, please.
Well, I do have very soft hands.
Yes, you do. Very delicate.
You use a lot of lotion.
No,
Do you wear a glove after you lotion up?
I just grew up in India where somebody else did the work.
All right.
So, boys, we have an update on the Fuente Padron Legends humidor that we talked about. I think it was 2 weeks ago or a week ago. I don't remember. But, probably the most anticipated release in 2023 for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely the most anticipated, I would say, of the last few years.
In many years. Many
That's
years.
my opinion. This,
Yeah.
this collaboration, we talked about it. I think it was last week or the week before for the listener out there. Long story short, it's a celebration of both patriarchs of the Fuente and Padron families who died respectively in 2016, 2017, and each manufacturer is putting together a Churchill that they're going to release in a combined humidor, 20 of the Fuente cigars, 20 of the Padron cigars, each which honor the other's father. So the Fuente cigars honor Jose Padron, and the Padron cigars honor Carlito's father, who was a major part of the Fuente brand with Carlito for many, many years. And, so each crazy humidor, as we talked about, it's going to have 20 Churchills of each brand. And the retail, as we've heard, Bam, is going to be about $10,000 for those 40 cigars.
That's what we've heard.
So that hasn't changed. However, it came out this past week that unfortunately one of the shipping containers holding these special humidors was extensively damaged on its way from the Dominican Republic to Fuente headquarters in Tampa, Florida. So what that tells me too is that Fuente is handling most of the
distribution,
movement, the logistics of these cigars. I'm assuming Padron is rolling their cigars and freighting them to Fuente's factory in Dominican, and then they're putting it all together and shipping it here. So one of the shipping containers was extensively damaged, and apparently now the entire release is delayed until sometime in 2024. Oh, man. So, it's a major blow to the folks like us who are, really curious and interested in this release. But what confuses me is that Carlito put out that on Thanksgiving of this year, a couple weeks ago, that they were shipping to manufacturers.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that that they're shipping to retailers. So I'm assuming that there's a bunch of retailers out there now who have these humidors stuffed in a storage bin somewhere in the back that they can't do anything with for now, probably 3, 6, 9 months. I mean, who knows how long it's going to take for them to inspect everything that's potentially damaged, and if there is anything damaged, to be, released. So it's a real bummer.
Yeah, it's really bad luck for something that's so anticipated. Really,
I'm disappointed because this could have been great luck for consumers. As soon as I heard this, I'm like 50% off these scratch and dent boxes. This would be amazing.
I'll get on a plane and go to that damaged container now.
Yeah. See, here's the problem with 50% off, Senator, is you on that episode said your cutoff was $100 a cigar. 50% puts those cigars at $125.
That's over your budget.
That's over your budget.
We're going to need
more for us.
We're going to need 60 or 70 then.
So I guess what they're going to, what they're saying here, Fuente is saying that each chest, each individual cigar, each portfolio, as they're calling it, simply has to be perfect. In my entire life, I've never encountered a shipping catastrophe the likes of this. This project is about 3 things: passion for a shared time-honored craft, family, 2 families, and integrity, honoring 2 great men. This project is so much bigger than simply one thing, which is why, again, each element has to be flawless. Also, I guess it has to be flawless if you're charging $250 a cigar. So we'll see what happens, but that's a big blow. I mean, when we go to PCA in March, I guess we'll see if the cigar is ready for release at that time.
But timing wise, this was ideal. Like right around the holidays, release that, and now that they're going to push it again, it might be like till the end of next year.
It could be.
We may be lucky, and they may release it at PCA.
Very well could be.
Possibly.
We'll see how it goes. I mean, this is going to put it now. It's about a year delayed, so it'll probably move to close to a year and a half delayed at this point, which is unfortunate. So, boys, what are you getting on the cigar? I've been talking. I'm smoking a lot slower. And like you said, Bam, when I smoke this slower, it's definitely better.
It's much better. I've been going a little quick here, and I haven't liked it the past half inch, let's say. So I'll slow down.
Yeah, it's extremely sensitive to that because I'm in the
really
same
is.
camp. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I started by saying, like, I realized I need to slow down, and then I was, and it was great. And then as I've been enjoying it more because I'm starting to draw more frequently, and now I'm back to, okay, it's getting the flavors muddled. I need to slow down.
So here's a question: couldn't that be a mark of a fairly complex cigar that requires time?
I think
fairly complex.
My gut, honestly, is the reason why it's reacting negatively when we draw too quickly or too frequently is I just think there's a lot of tobacco in it, and I think it's really densely packed, and I think that when you pull too much, too quickly, you're going to start to get that tar buildup, especially at the head of the cigar here, at the cut, which this might be like some of those Lanceros we've talked about where it needs a second cut. I don't know yet, but I think that might be some of the bitterness that you're experiencing is there's not a lot of airflow. Despite the combustion being good, I don't think there's a lot of airflow going on here, at least in mine.
It's hard to believe that the tobacco is aged 5 years. 5 years aged tobacco I think it should be smoother. It should.
He's right. It does not smoke like an aged cigar.
I agree.
Yeah, I just wonder is there a lot of Nicaraguan tobacco or what they have in here just needs a lot more time. But 5 to 6 years age, that's what Padron is putting out in the 1926 line.
Right.
As a 5-year age cigar. And that's all Nicaraguan. So it's interesting the blend decisions here with that amount of time, creating something that's a little sharp, to use Bam's word.
My guess is that this being a blend of like 5 different tobaccos makes it harder for it to fully benefit from the aging process. Where if this was like a Dominican or a Nicaraguan Puro with 5 years of age, there's no question it would be smooth. I mean, Davidoff, most of them are Dominican Puros, Padron, Nicaraguan Puros, and anything aged at 4 or 5 years, we would say is wildly smooth that they make.
True.
So I just think like when you introduce like Indonesian tobacco and Honduran and whatever else is in here, maybe it's just that tobacco is a lot sharper and just doesn't benefit as quickly from aging as, maybe that Nicaraguan and Dominican tobacco from that soil and just how that whole process works.
Isn't the filler which kind of drives combustion?
Well, it depends. It's certainly
it's the binder and the filler, right?
It's a combo of everything. It's when they're blending this, they're choosing different varietals of the tobacco that have different speeds of combustion, like we learned from Danilo.
That's right.
At El Laguito is each different part of the tobacco plant and various components of it just burn.
Yeah, they have a
very
different
differently
rate of combustion. So
exactly,
some part of the cigar burns faster than the others. So the way they wrap it, they hope to gain balance in the burn.
Exactly.
Yeah, but not perfect balance in the sense that
it's true.
The tobacco that's in the middle of the cigar is intentionally supposed to burn slower.
Absolutely.
Which is why you have that ash. Exactly. You have the cone from that. So the outermost part of the cigar needs to burn the fastest, and the further you get to the middle, it's supposed to burn slower.
I don't think we sound like adolescent schoolboys.
We sound excited, though.
This is quite sophisticated conversation for that one listener.
That's why I took offense to that.
Rooster in the connoisseur corner doesn't like to hear that.
Like how many times has that listener been to Cuba? That's what I'd like to know.
Great question. Really. Great question.
So, boys, another piece of news, which is a good thing, and we've talked about this, and I think, I speak for all of us, this stuff's really important, as far as regulation and legislation around this thing of ours, this thing that we love. And there's a recent story that there's a new House proposal aiming to exempt premium cigars from FDA regulations. So now this is a follow-up, of course, to Judge Mehta, who ruled that the FDA was overstepping its bounds in trying to regulate premium hand-rolled cigars. So now, there's a legislative effort now to exempt completely from FDA's rule, which obviously if this gets through, that would be fantastic. I'm sure it's an uphill battle, but, it's a really good thing. So in the House of Representatives last month, Byron Donalds of South Florida introduced a new bill to exempt premium hand-rolled tobacco from FDA's control, which is very much in line with Judge Mehta. And of course, the FDA is going to, take this to the grave.
Sure.
They're going to run this for the next 25 years if they have to. And I know Senator could probably speak on this a little more, but, it's a good thing to see some of the representatives, presenting legislation to protect this, this thing of ours.
It makes absolute sense. And this is something we've discussed for years. When we first heard about this type of legislation, it makes no sense to lump this product with the flavored cigars and all of the other cigars that you can get your hands on. Makes no sense.
Definitely.
The sad reality is that bill's never going to pass.
It's true.
No way.
It's true.
And I give them credit for introducing it. It's a great messaging bill. It's just making a stand like this is important and this is why it should not be treated the same. But is that ever going to get enough votes to not only pass the House, but also pass the Senate? Not a chance in hell.
I agree with you.
I mean, the percentage of people who care as much as we do about this, that's tiny.
We need to reelect Arnold.
Here we go.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he can't be president because he wasn't born in the U.S.
That's true.
So the FDA, as we know, was granted authority to regulate premium cigar business in 2016. In response, of course, the entire industry, namely the Trade Association, the Cigar Association of America, sued the FDA significantly, and now it's under appeal after, as I said, Judge Mehta ruled in favor of the cigar industry. And what I love is that the proposal for exemption cited the findings of a 2022 study by the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, the acronym is NASEM, pointing out that, quote, premium cigars are used virtually exclusively by adults. Premium cigar use is extremely limited, and premium cigar use poses less physical risk than the use of other tobacco products. So, of course, the FDA is angling that children have access to this, that it has the same effects of tobacco that you inhale or that you put in your lip, that are quite, for the entire experience, sitting inside your body in some way. Obviously, with what we do, that's not the case. What I love is that I want to list this out because I don't think we've done it. So to be classified as premium, in order to qualify for exemption, it has to be wrapped in whole tobacco leaf, contain 100% leaf tobacco binder, contain at least 50% long filler tobacco, which obviously everything that we smoke on this podcast,
That's true.
we smoke, in this lifestyle of ours, is all long filler, premium hand-rolled stuff, is handmade or hand-rolled, meaning that absolutely no machinery was used apart from very simple tools such as scissors or something, has no filter, non-tobacco tip or non-tobacco mouthpiece. So the Philly blunts that you love, Bam, those are unfortunately not included here.
Can you make sure they're blueberry, please?
They do not have...
Oh, wait. The plastic tip has to be white.
It does not have a characterizing flavor other than tobacco. So I want to hold that one for a second. Contains only tobacco, water, and vegetable gum. Obviously, vegetable gum using to seal the wrapper and the cap and whatnot. And weighing more than 6 pounds per 1,000 units. So let's go back to one of these, which I think we've discussed on the podcast before. Senator kind of detailed some of the stuff that the Cigar Association of America was talking about with flavored cigars. So one of the characteristics here is it does not have a flavor other than tobacco. So that is where the flavored cigars from Acid, some of the other cigars out there that are very popular. You joked about blueberry,
but those are all machine-made cigars. All of those flavored cigars are machine-made. The majority of them, especially the lower level sticks.
Is Acid a premium hand-rolled product? I believe it is. Correct?
It is hand-rolled, but the other cigars like the Philly Blunt and all that, those are machine. Of course, yeah.
So let's exclude the gas station stuff. But there are some cigars,
you're
like
right.
the Acids,
You're
that are long filler. Every other characterization that we just listed here is the case, but there is added flavor into it to give that smoker what they want. So, that is still a target,
but that's not
outside of this.
That's not done so that they're not really going after the kids, right? I mean, that's still for adults who like a flavored cigar.
Yeah. Now, I will say that I think, doesn't the manufacturer, don't they all have to start towing the line and create a distinction in their product? If they're going to make a flavored cigar, they can't call it a premium cigar. They just can't, and they shouldn't.
I think the way that Drew Estate and Senator can talk about this, let's just focus on Drew Estate with the Acid cigars. I think the way that they view that, because I've experienced this with friends of mine, is it's a good entry product into what we do.
Yeah, that's true.
So I have a very specific friend I'm thinking of who now listens to the podcast, purchases cigars that we smoke, enjoy it. He started with Acid. It was kind of like his journeying into understanding what premium tobacco tasted like with a little added flavor. And then kind of like, a lot of coffee drinkers start with cream and sugar and they start to work their way down to just drinking coffee black. Right. So I think that's the way Drew Estate has approached it. But unfortunately, the FDA looks at that as a big red mark.
Yeah, I agree. I think everything Gizmo said is 100% accurate. And the reality is, at the end of the day, if the product is designed only for adult consumption, which as much as I don't personally like Acid cigars, they are designed for adult consumption. They're not marketing them to children. And I actually really like the coffee analogy in the sense that it's an entry point. I mean, I've met countless people whose first cigar was an Acid cigar. And, I look sometimes when I'm in a cigar lounge and I see women smoking a cigar, and half of them sometimes I see with like an acid blondie or something that's going to be like light and sweet and just like they want the same enjoyment. They want to sit there and have conversation and enjoy a smoke and relax, but they're not used to, the strength of flavor that we enjoy at this point in our journey. And so as much as I don't particularly care about or care for the product itself, who's the government to say that an adult can't make that decision and have that product? And that's, I think, what it comes down to. In my conversation with David Osgob, who's the CEO at CAA, I mean, that's their point. It's just like, if we're to accept that government can tell someone that a grown adult can't choose to smoke a flavored cigar that is only marketed for that adult, then why wouldn't they be able to regulate us and prevent us from smoking these that we do like? And that's the slippery slope argument that becomes really problematic. And that conversation is what made me even come around, because I never cared really about what happened with flavored cigars because I don't smoke them. But if they can do that with flavored cigars, then why can't they do it with anything that we like?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that, another slippery slope too, Rooster, I'm looking at you. Obviously, around the holidays, you love to smoke a pipe. Right. And a lot of pipe tobacco
Flavored.
is flavored. And we know a lot of the guys at our lounge at 1086.
And we all love the aroma.
And we love the aroma, and they really enjoy that as a companion piece to their regular cigar. Maybe it's something different, or it requires a little less time. Is that the next step that we're going to ban? We're going to ban tobacco for pipes?
I also, by the way, your coffee analogy, the next time I meet with the CAA folks, I want them to start using this. I mean, the reason I say this, just think about this, apply this to kids.
You got to give him credit.
I just did.
You better give the CAA guys credit. That's Gizmo.
No. It's brilliant. But here's why, right? I want to connect this back. You were just talking about flavored pipe tobacco.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to the coffee analogy. I mean, think of how silly this is. Everybody would say that little children should not be drinking coffee and having a lot of caffeine, right? No one is giving a 10-year-old coffee.
No.
Right? And so coffee is marketed toward adults. But there are kids, of course, who try to have coffee.
Sure.
So are we going to say that we should ban flavored coffee? Now, again, I don't consume much flavored coffee, but there's nothing wrong with grown adults having a French vanilla roast or a hazelnut roast or all these different flavored coffees.
Or forget all that, loading up with sugar.
Right.
Yeah.
My stepson works at Starbucks. He comes home and sometimes will tell us some of the orders that come through. Like people will order like a frappuccino with like 19 pumps of syrup.
That beverage is over 1,000 calories.
And with the
Alone.
it's crazy what these people
It's
add
insane.
to it. So maybe it is a better
Which I would
analogy than I
argue
even
is
thought.
more dangerous than any cigar that
Of
anybody's
course it
consumed.
is.
It's true.
Dude, also some of the energy drinks that kids are
Yes.
into.
Oh,
they
it's
are
awful.
There's a lot of caffeine in them.
And soda, the teens love going to Quick Check and 7-Eleven, getting the big gulp.
Yeah.
That's why the operative thing from a regulatory standpoint, we're not sitting here saying nothing should be regulated. Obviously, there is a purpose to some regulation. The point is, it shouldn't be marketed toward children. And as long as it is marketed toward adults, adults should be able to choose whatever they want.
Yeah. And the onus is on the retailer to make sure that they're not selling to minors.
That's right.
Exactly.
Honestly.
Exactly.
That's where the line gets crossed.
And I think, I've been in a lot of cigar shops. I know we all have. Have you guys ever seen a child in there? Have you guys ever seen a 20-year-old in there?
No.
A 25-year-old even. I mean,
Well,
it's just
outside of myself at 20.
well, you're a little different, but I mean,
He was
it's just
smoking
not part
cigars
of our
at
culture.
16.
It's not part of our culture. It's like I just think about, the way your taste buds develop, moving from adolescence into young adulthood into adulthood. I don't even think you can appreciate black coffee or a cigar until your brain is fully developed, your palate is fully developed, where you're not walking into the grocery aisle looking to pick up candy bars on the way out. I mean, you have to be a little older to do that. I just don't think that what we do here falls under that same thing.
Not at all.
Which is unfortunate. So what's nice too, I was just reading that it has bipartisan support. There's 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans who are into this bill. So we'll see if it passes. I doubt it will, like you said, Senator, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. But hopefully, the push keeps happening that the FDA has overstepped its bounds. And I'll be honest, I think it has better things to do than worry about what adult men and women are smoking in the privacy of their own lounges or homes or garages like we're in tonight, whatever it may be, So, boys, we're into the last third here of the ADVentura, the Navigator in Pinzon, the Robusto. I got to say, we're about an hour 5 into this episode tonight.
Yeah.
I feel like this Robusto has smoked pretty slowly
Yeah. For $10.
for $10.
I think it goes to your point. You said there's a lot of tobacco in this cigar,
Yeah.
which, again, at a $10 price point, I'm sure the temptation for them was to not really pack this all that much, right? That would be better for their business. They clearly have, and they've delivered a pretty complete smoking experience, which I appreciate. And again, the construction, I mean, I've looked at everybody's cigar all the way through, flawless.
Yes. Agreed.
And it kind of forces you to smoke slow.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think my draw has a little bit of resistance, which I think is good too.
That helps.
Which helps. If it's a wide open Robusto, you're going to blow through this thing in 45 minutes.
And it won't be good.
Exactly.
No.
And I mean, the Oliva V Lancero, which we've raved about, and I know so many listeners have emailed, by the way. I don't know if I told you guys this. So many listeners have emailed saying the Oliva V Lancero has been a revelation for them.
It is a revelation. Yeah.
Like it has for us.
Yeah.
But for a Lancero, that cigar smokes pretty quickly for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably an hour 5 for me when I smoke that Lancero, which compared to, let's say, the Millennium Lancero from Davidoff or some of the others that I smoked, they last a little longer.
Right.
But for $5 or $8 or whatever you get it for,
Oh, it's delicious.
it's an incredible value. So it's nice that this $10 Robusto is giving us quite a bit of time value tonight, which I think is important, So speaking of value, I wanted to bring this up because Rooster's here and he's a little hot tonight. So this is a good one. So Rocky Patel has now shipped a $100 cigar to
I'm out.
retailers.
That's a great value.
His newest brand
I'm still out.
is called Conviction, and it comes with a price tag of $100 per cigar. Of course, it's presented in extraordinary packaging, and he says it's made with the oldest tobaccos that he's ever put in a cigar. All of the leaves are grown on his own farms in Nicaragua, including stuff going all the way, 10 years back. It's got his oldest filler from both of his farms in it. It's a 52 ring gauge cigar by 6.5 inches, 10 cigars per box, $100 per cigar. That is crazy to me.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, Rocky Patel is known for budget cigars.
Mm-hmm.
That's what his whole portfolio is all about, right? So for him to come out with $100 cigar, not even a Padron comes out with that, maybe
Yeah.
until now.
Yeah, that's a
No,
Fuente
I mean,
collaboration, though.
right.
I think that's on
they,
the
they
side.
have
yeah.
nothing. I mean, their top cigar is like $50
$50.
$50.
Yeah.
So for Rocky to come out with that, I mean, it's a little absurd. I mean, unless it's really like it's an incredible smoke. I mean, I kind of doubt that.
I would just love to meet the person that's going to go out and buy that cigar.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. If you're going to spend $100 on a cigar,
Pagoda.
I would almost pay just to meet the
I'm just
person
asking.
that says, where I'm going to spend $100 on a cigar on a Rocky Patel. It just doesn't make sense.
I have to
Exactly.
support my Indian brother, buddy.
Yeah, hey, I'm with you, bro.
So here's,
I think $20 each, we'll get one cigar.
Can you pass it down, please?
we'll
one
just
and pass.
Everybody take a puff and we'll pass it around. Yeah. To Rooster's point, though, it's like, Rocky, the ALR, I forget what the price on that was. I think it was $18 or
Yeah,
something
20
like
bucks.
that. That to me, that's kind of the higher end of his range. To put that at a 5x multiple, like you're saying, for 10 years age tobacco, which, by the way, let's just point out again, we go back to Padron all the time. Family Reserve is 10 years age Nicaraguan tobacco, not $100. It's closer to 30. How do you go from an $18 or $20 cigar to $100?
Yeah, I think
Makes no damn sense
I think
to
the
me.
point Rooster's making that it's a little suspect because Padron has many, many years of experience putting out aged cigars.
Yeah.
Rocky doesn't.
Well, it's also probably about marketing and packaging. The packaging is probably worth like half the price of that.
Please don't worry. It'll be sold for 75% off.
I just don't understand his mentality. Why not put out a cigar at $50 and in a couple of years, start to ramp up what your brand
Exactly right.
perception is?
Yeah.
Why jump
Build
to
up
100?
to it.
Yeah. Is
it's
it
just
Over time.
is it a reaction to the market? Is it a reaction like we talked about with the Fuente Padron thing a couple weeks ago? Is it a reaction to what the Cuban pricing has done or global pricing has done, that it's like, oh, there's an opportunity here, for me to put out something super premium that's still a discount versus what you pay for a high-end Cohiba?
Exactly.
It
Maybe
makes
he's
no
looking.
sense.
Maybe he's looking at the Cohiba market and saying like, well, if they can charge like $150 for a cigar, why can't I do the same thing? I mean, but
Yeah, I think the hard thing, I mean, it goes back, you got to know your customer, right? Anybody who's buying an expensive Cohiba cigar is 99% are not smoking any Rocky Patel
Right.
cigars.
No, never.
Of course. By the way, I don't think I've ever seen anyone at our lounge smoking a Rocky Patel,
Same.
even the ALR.
Honestly, I go to a lot of lounges. I never see a Rocky smoked.
Yeah.
I haven't in a very long time.
And he's notorious for being, he's clearly, Pagoda and I were talking about this the other night with some folks in our lounge. Like, he's a high volume. I mean, he owns a significant percentage of the U.S. market by volume and I think dollars, but it's the lower end of the market.
It's a good business model. Stick to it,
Of
right?
course.
Just stay with that model.
Yeah. So to see $100 cigar coming out, it makes absolutely no sense to me. No sense at all.
Can we talk more about where to smoke these cigars? No, I say that because Bam mentioned Arnold's name earlier.
Yeah.
I don't think we've discussed this, but you saw the Arnold Schwarzenegger interview with Marvin Shanken in Cigar Aficionado. I personally think Marvin Shanken is not a good interviewer.
He's the worst interviewer of all time.
Right.
He's riveting.
I mean, the Michael Jordan interview, that is literally had the potential to be one of the greatest interviews of all time.
Missed
and
opportunity.
It was a complete dud.
Yeah.
He just doesn't know how to go about probing on things that are going to be interesting. The Arnold interview, what I will say, I'll give credit. There were a few moments actually that I thought were really interesting, but we were just having the conversation about, I mean, we're sitting here smoking in a garage, right? We're big proponents of garage smoking. My favorite story from the whole interview was when Arnold was governor of California, he would go to the Capitol very often there in Sacramento to meet with all these lawmakers, right? Trying to get legislation past the hillside. And for a guy who's a cigar smoker like him, what better way to have conversation and bridge this divide than over cigars? So he was told very sternly, does not matter that you're the governor of California. You cannot smoke cigars inside the Capitol here.
Wow.
So what he did so cleverly.
This was publicized, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He had his team look into the law, and it's a certain number of feet from the
I
Capitol.
think it was 25 or 50 feet or something.
Yeah.
Or 100 feet or
Yep.
something.
That you have, it might have been 30 for some reason sticks in my head. So if you're saying 25 to 50, maybe it's 30 feet from the building that you could smoke. So he had people build a tent.
That's right.
However many feet from the Capitol that became his like office essentially when he was there at the
His
Capitol.
mobile lounge.
I mean, it's
He
unbelievable.
had a desk.
He did.
And there's photographs of all this when he would meet with legislators there and light up cigars and negotiate over legislation. And Arnold in the interview, he said it was game changing. He's like, I would have people on both sides of the aisle sitting there next to me, smoking cigars, and we could just get down to it. What can we agree on to make this work? And it was just such an amazing story to me. So it's like, you got to love the garage setup works. You can build your own tent and enjoy cigars in them. We saw the other day, there was an article about a truly mobile cigar lounge that's basically like one of these big buses or like RVs that they've like retrofitted into a cigar lounge.
Brilliant.
That you can hire to come to like an event where, let's say, you have a significant number of people who don't want to be around cigar smoke, don't want to smoke cigars.
That was our idea.
They stole
Hour
it.
is in
They stole it.
Rooster and Bam.
That's right.
About 10 years ago.
We had many ideas.
Never executed.
But I mean, it's a brilliant model to like hire something like that to come out to an event, especially like you think of like these events, like you're cooped up indoors in like a big convention center. Obviously you can't smoke there.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine for people who want to have a cigar, if you could just kind of dip out and go into this mobile cigar lounge, enjoy a cigar. I thought it was a brilliant idea. And it seems their business is doing
I would
well.
love it too, because, when I go to a concert, I'll give you an example. I went to the Metallica concert at MetLife, which was a Friday, Sunday, everything that Metallica's doing was 2 shows this past year and I think next year. But anyway, it was at MetLife Stadium. Obviously, I went with a bunch of my friends. A lot of us smoked cigars. And it would have been amazing to have something like this where in the MetLife parking lot, that's what they do at concerts, at sporting events, Jets game, Giants game, whatever. They pull up, you rent it, you can go in, smoke some cigars with your friends, hang out. Like, to me, it's the ultimate tailgating experience.
Totally agreed, dude.
I mean, it's unbelievable that that's an option. It's called Smoke and Mirrors RVIP, by the way.
And they're out
Smokes
of
and Mirrors. They're in New Jersey somewhere. I don't know
Atlantic
where.
City, I believe.
Somewhere in New Jersey, but they'll go to like, the stadiums or wherever. They'll go
Yeah.
to your house and pull on the street if you want. But to your point, I mean, that to me is, I'm not a guy who goes to a Jets game or a Giants game or an Eagles game, in my case, and tailgates. That's not what I do. But if there was a mobile cigar lounge where I could have a few cigars before the game, enjoy the game, come out after the game, have a couple more cigars, that's heavenly to me.
And as a Jets fan, I wouldn't leave that van. What's the point
Just
of watching
stay in the
game?
van.
Oh, yeah.
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 Well-
There's no football that day for me. No. Not at all.
So, guess your parents have an RV.
Yeah.
So
I don't think
let's
why don't we
trick it out.
convert
I don't think
convert that into a lounge.
I don't think Mom Dukes is going to go for that one. You know what though? I'll give her. You can have her phone number. You can call her and see what you can get done.
Good luck with that.
But to your point, Senator, I think that in our lounge experience is a good example of this, right? This thing of ours, as we always say, this thing that we love, this lifestyle. How many impactful, interesting conversations where our perspective has changed? Where you're sitting with folks who this common denominator is the cigar in your hand, who maybe has a different viewpoint than you do on an issue, political or not, forgetting even politics in Arnold's case, as you brought up. But think about how many times you've sat down with someone and had a really memorable, impactful conversation over a cigar that changed your point of view. It's like, it's perfect for, with what Arnold said, that he had this tent that allowed him to get things done because of the shared enjoyment of the cigar,
Yeah.
For sure.
which is the nature of
Oh, yeah.
what we're doing.
And we've talked about this a lot. The combustion of a cigar, for me, it creates this relaxing environment. It just melt away. And when you have that discussion with another person, regardless of what the topic is, the discussion flows beautifully.
Yeah, the other
Very
thing,
nice.
it's like, this is what's also common in all of this. A cigar takes time to consume. And how many times have people been in a conversation where they don't like what they're hearing and they just get up and leave?
Yeah.
Right? They have 15 minutes of conversation. I disagree. Okay, I'm out of here. You're not going to put down a good cigar.
No.
You're going to spend at least an hour with that cigar. And you think of like some of the more contentious conversations that you can have with a person, obviously negotiating policy and in a political context, as contentious as it can arguably get
In California.
You're going to finish that cigar and you're forced to really sit there and talk it all through. And that there's brilliance to that.
Yep. Arnold, we love
Arnold.
I also, that mobile cigar thing, I at some point, I really hope they're at there's no reason, I guess, to be at PCA, but I want to see this thing in action. It's called Smoke and Mirrors. I have nothing but love for their business. And you even think of some of the utility, like I'm looking at what they say. Sports events, we obviously talked about. That's a great utility for it. Concerts,
golf.
Golf.
Yeah.
events.
Weddings.
it says weddings.
Yes.
And the funny thing I'm thinking
Yes.
about, I'm like, I got lucky.
I would miss the ceremony.
Oh, yeah.
But it's smart because,
like I would miss a Jets game.
I'm thinking
I
about,
think it'd be great for Indian weddings where you're not allowed to drink, and everybody in India on the wedding day goes out by the parking lot and drinks out of the back of the car.
They load up their cars.
yeah, that's exactly. So you get one of these.
Is that a real thing?
It is.
Absolutely.
It is. Yeah.
Every single car, like they open the trunk and it's like a full bar.
and all the men are hanging
All the
out there.
guys are outside.
Oh, I love it.
imagine adding cigars to that.
Oh my
Adding
goodness.
cigars and drinks. How great
But
it
you
would
even
be.
think about weddings, like I was thinking about, I'm like, that wouldn't really help. In my case, my wedding, it was obviously indoors, but there was an outdoor component and we were able to all smoke freely, thankfully, on the grounds there. But let's say it rained.
Yeah.
I would have been screwed. Having something like this, I absolutely would have called. If I saw the weather forecast a few days before, would have had that mobile RV there in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
I mean, there's just such great utility for this. So I would love to see this in action.
I think the key component too to this for me is weather. Like you're saying, if it rained, but if it's in the summer, you're going to a concert or something, it's 80, 90, 100 degrees outside. You go into this air conditioned.
Think of Vegas. I mean, it's 100
yes.
and something degrees in the summer. It can be
Yeah.
like 105, 110.
Unbearable.
No one wants to stand outside and do that.
Yeah, it's a really, really good idea. So we support this. So
Oh, agreed.
Smoke and Mirrors, RVIP, check it out. Especially if you're in the Northeast. I think they travel quite a bit. They'll drive to wherever you are. It's a great business model.
Do they have multiple RVs?
I'm not sure of that. I'm not sure. They present as if they're pretty busy, so
Yeah.
they very well may. But I think we might have to do this. We might have to do a concert or something at, in the summer or something, and have these guys come out and.
Yeah, it says city to city, state to state. You call us, we show up.
Wow.
Sounds like
awesome.
they'll go anywhere.
Wow.
So speaking of going anywhere, we've talked about this on the podcast before. I have to say it because it's been, again, another iteration of a real incredible revelation to me is Wonder is back. So we've talked about this in the past. Wonder is an amazing restaurant business model where they license, I think it's 15 or some odd restaurants, really, really high-end restaurants, recipes. Chefs come in, train their people on what to do. They used to show up, at least in our area here in New Jersey and New York, they used to show up in a Sprinter van, and whatever you ordered on the app, they would cook outside of your home, your parking lot, whatever it may be, in a Sprinter van. That model didn't work. We got really depressed. It's coming up on a year, by the way, since they stopped doing it. I think it was January of 23 here.
It worked well, though.
It worked really well. But now they have iterated again, and they have opened brick and mortar locations in the city.
Some of us, for the record, held out hope, and some
You
of us
did.
did
I
not.
got to give you credit. I was a little negative Nancy here on this one, but
It could only get better. That was my premise.
and it has. So they opened a location near our lounge. It's about 1.5 miles away from 1086 Lounge in Hawthorne. They opened in Midland Park, and I have ordered there maybe 7 times in the last 2 weeks. It is unbelievable to get a Bobby Flay steak and the sides for $45, sit at our lounge, smoke a cigar, drink whatever we want, wine, bourbon, scotch, whatever it may be. And it just enhances this experience of ours.
Yeah, it's a brilliant business model. It's just brilliant to be able to access all that food from one location, right?
That's the thing. There's like
nuts.
2 big differentiators, because I feel like if you're not familiar with Wonder, you sit there and say, well, what's so different about ordering takeout from 1,000 other restaurants that are
this
near
is
me?
different.
The 2 things, number one, as Bam was saying, and Giz, to have 15 different cuisines and restaurants in one place. I think Pagoda and I were chatting the other day, and he's like, you think about your kids and they always want different things from different places, and
Yeah.
you're kind of battling to figure out how to, find a happy medium. You don't have to worry about that with Wonder. I mean, one kid can want Italian, the other kid can want, Mediterranean, and you're going to get
Chicken
it all.
tenders and fries.
Yeah.
Right, chicken
Yeah.
tenders, and you're going to get it all.
Yeah.
In one place, pick up, done.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing. And the other thing is,
Huge.
there's always, everybody would agree, there's a huge distinction between going to a restaurant and getting a restaurant quality meal at a restaurant and getting takeout. Takeout never lives up to a restaurant quality meal. And I think Wonder has done the best job of delivering restaurant quality food for takeout. I mean, you get a steak there. If you put that on a plate, you'd think that you either had to have cooked that in your own home or somehow got that from like a really nice high-end steakhouse. Like just every little detail they do, I think, really well.
They do. And I think the other distinction too is the price. For me, I order a 10-ounce filet from the Bobby Flay Steakhouse. I'm able to order sides from the other various
Forget
restaurants.
sides. Start with the steak.
Just the steak. I mean, it's incredible.
$32.
$32 for a 10-ounce filet. And
It's
it's cooked
outrageous.
perfectly every
It's
time.
outrageous.
Any steakhouse, that's going to be $50 to $65
Yeah,
for that
absolutely.
same 10-ounce steak.
Yep.
And the quality is what you'd get at another steakhouse. It's not dry aged. So that let's separate what you'd get at a dry aged place. That's another, distinguishing factor, I think, on the quality of a steak. But it's unbelievable to get what you get at the price, and then to be able to mix and match, as we're talking about, ordering sides from other restaurants, to put together a meal for $45 or $50 that at a place where you're sitting down, you can't smoke cigars, you're adding on the cost of alcohol,
Yeah.
wine, or whatever you're drinking. It's a third, maybe even a quarter of the price of what you're paying to not be able to smoke a cigar along with it.
Yep.
So it's been a real revelation, and the guys at the lounge are freaking out because
it's
everybody's ordering it.
It's so unique, right? To get that, like I said, what's most compelling for me is to be able to mix and match
Yeah.
from multiple restaurants.
Yeah, one order,
It's
you cover everybody in the
It's
house.
insane.
You can get
And-
barbecue, steaks,
Ah.
pizza, everything.
And sorry, the other thing I should have mentioned, it's not just that it's so many different restaurants and different cuisines. There are really well-known, like famous restaurants that you'd have to go travel to that city to go and experience.
And good luck getting a reservation.
Correct.
That's true.
Right. Like there's a place we were talking about. There's a place Maidan on there. That is a Michelin star restaurant in DC. I'm in DC a lot, so I've eaten there. The food's unbelievable. But if you don't live in DC and you want that experience, to be able to literally get that in New Jersey or some other state, that's an incredible thing. There's so many places on there like that, which is awesome. And they license basically their recipes to Wonder to replicate that for other people.
Yeah.
And they do a great job.
Yeah. The execution's excellent.
Yeah, it's so consistent.
Yeah.
Every time I've ordered, it's perfect every time.
And
And the
it's go-
value is just excellent.
It's going to be so easy for Bam because as we know, he tends to eat 3 meals at a time. He can order from
what?
3 restaurants at the same time.
You're not wrong, and I'm proud of it. You are not wrong.
So, boys, we're coming to the end of our evening here with the ADVentura, the Navigator in Pinzon, and the Old Forester 1910. What are you guys thinking on the pairing, on either, on both? What do you think?
I've enjoyed the pairing, actually. It's really interesting. I don't know, the average rating may be different, but overall, I think it's worked for me. It's I'm not sure whether I'll go and buy either of the two, but it's kind of worked.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
where I'm at. Is like
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where the ratings end up because I haven't found anything in either of our pairing tonight that is going to make me want to go out and buy them.
But
You
it
know,
worked.
It worked. It was a great experience. I understand why people like both,
Mhm.
but for my palate, neither of the two have really done it for me.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody gave it to you, you'll smoke it.
Yeah,
You know, or like
Yeah,
there's
of course.
nothing else, you would pick it up and have it. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It's good.
The same with the Old Forester. That's why I think like when Pagoda says the pairing really worked, I think it does. Like there's nothing offensive to me, at least, about either of them. There's nothing spectacular about either
No.
of them. But, for just an average night, you don't have access to a whole lot and
Yeah.
you just want a bourbon and a cigar. Would I be fine having these? Sure.
I mean, more and more where the Cuban prices are going, you're always looking for something.
Well, that's true.
Something,
It's funny you
gives
say
you
that.
satisfaction
I
out
was
of a New World cigar.
Standing in front of my tower, looking for a cigar to pick for tonight.
Your unlit tower, by the way.
Yeah, I don't.
We
have
just
my-
learned this today.
Oh,
Gizmo,
brother.
you
oh
missed
my
this.
God.
Can we avoid
What?
this
He has
topic?
not put the LED lights in.
Oh,
We need
in
to talk
all
about
this
this.
time.
We need to
God.
talk about this.
Okay, come
We
on.
do?
You don't have the.
All right, hold on. We got to end the year. We started the year with the Bam Bam Accountability Hour.
So let's continue
this
the
is
hammer.
the final episode of 2023, and I'm just learning that you don't have the LED lights in
He's
your
got
tower.
he's got a flashlight on top
Takes
of the tower.
5 minutes to put them in.
Oh,
Pagoda,
It's
you know,
embarrassing.
God.
Pagoda, I need to have a discussion with you on the side. I'm just too nice. I offer too much information. I got to keep stuff to
I mean,
myself.
you're not wrong.
I do agree with that.
All right,
what am I
so
doing?
how long would it take you to put the lights in?
About 20 minutes.
Less.
And
Yeah,
you haven't
less.
found any time in the last 52 weeks.
That's great. I haven't thought about it. The room that it's in, it's really well lit. I have no issues. Although I looked at your tower when you open that door, beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Bam.
So I got to get to
You
it.
got to
could
get
be
to
yours,
it.
I got to get to it.
It changes.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say about the lighting. It changes the container that your cigars are in from just a piece of wood or a storage container. It turns it into a piece of furniture.
Well, everything's illuminated in there.
It turns it into something that, for me, Mrs. Gizmo comes in and goes, you know what? That looks really nice. Like she's
does.
she's really
It does.
impressed by it.
Yeah.
So it reduces the amount of painful conversation that we have when I buy
Yes.
cigars because I'm like, look at how good it looks.
Can I get to my point though? I was avoiding I try to avoid going for as many of my cigar inventories as I want now because of the price.
Yeah,
So
same here.
Yeah, I go for more New Worlds recently, and occasionally I'll grab a Cuban. from
Is it
time to
because
time.
you can't find them?
Because it's so dark? No.
No, I mean, I'm doing the same thing, Bam.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's why the Oliva V Lancero at the rating that we gave it
Oh,
was,
dude.
I mean, that's entered, I think, all of our daily rotation. I think I've seen
Absolutely.
each of us
Yes.
smoking that 3-4 times a
That's
week
right.
at least.
That's right.
Like that is a regular rotation
Yeah.
cigar for $5.
Yep.
It points to your,
Yep.
that's to your
Yep.
point. It's like the value is just
Yeah.
unbeatable. And for me, I was telling you guys the other day, I think it was Pagoda and Senator at the lounge. When I look at my collection, my D4s, even Monty 2s, I'm just reaching for them less. Where I used to reach for them on the daily basis. It's now the cost of replacing those
It's true.
cigars.
And finding them.
It's totally changed.
Yeah. And
know?
the moral of the story, this cigar does have utility.
It does.
Yeah.
At least the $10.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
All right, boys, it's time to do the formal liquor rating on the Old Forester 1910. Bam, Bam, you're up.
So I'm going to give this a 7. I liked it. I didn't like it at first, but it grew on me. Yeah.
Okay. Pagoda.
7 for me as well. As you know, I'm not a very typical bourbon drinker as well, but I think it's very serviceable and very drinkable.
So for me, I'm giving this a 6.
Mhm.
I've not been impressed at all. I don't think it has any legs for me.
Mhm.
I think the price is unreasonable for what it gives me. I didn't put that much ice in it. It was not for me. I was not impressed at all. Senator.
I'm with Pagoda and Bam in that I'm going to give it a 7. And the biggest factor for me why I would drink it again, I'm not going to pursue it aggressively, but if someone poured me this, I would happily have it
Sure.
because it is on the drier side of bourbons.
Sure.
And why I don't pursue bourbon all that often is because they're usually very sweet, which
Yeah.
is just not my palate.
I think you hit it.
Overtly sweet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I really liked in this the like woody notes. And it wasn't, the funny thing is I say I like the woody notes in this, but there are some bourbons I've had where it's like so aggressively woody
Mhm.
and earthy that it's almost unrecognizable as being a bourbon, and that
Yeah.
I actually don't enjoy. So I think it's really well balanced for what it is. I can't imagine drinking this neat. It definitely needed ice.
Oh yeah.
And I don't disagree with Gizmo that, there's not a ton of body here, but for even as much ice as I've had, if you look at when I move the little bit of the spirit that's left in this glass,
A little bit of legs.
there's viscousness to it. There's
bit.
some viscosity.
I think you
It's-
see it in the glass, though. I don't think you get it on the palate.
On the palate, it's light.
It's very light.
Yeah, but look, I think the word balance does make sense here because on the finish, I get that earthy, smoky finish, which I love. On the front, for me, I did get a little floral, which is a pretty good balance. Soft recommend, 7.
Yeah. So, boys, the formal liquor rating on the Old Forester 1910 is a 6.8, which is really 30 points less than the Weller we referenced earlier. So,
Oh yeah.
we gave that almost close to a 10.
Yeah, that was great.
And that, its MSRP is what, 40% less than this?
How much was that bottle?
Well, on the MSRP, I think it's a $30 or $35 bottle.
Yeah, this was like 49 and change. Yeah. Wow.
All right, boys, it's time to do the formal lizard rating of the ADVentura, the Navigator in Pinzon. Rooster, you're up.
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't really like the beginning of the cigar. It was hard to pick out the notes. And even like later on, like halfway through, you guys were saying you're getting some mocha and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's like a sweet chocolate coffee note that I was getting. It wasn't really, really pronounced. And I kind of felt like in the last third, that kind of dissipated for me.
Mm.
So I couldn't really pick out like distinguished notes out of this cigar. So I'm at a 7.
Okay. Senator.
I'm also at a 7.
Mhm.
I think I mentioned before, and Pagoda said he liked the pairing, and I'm in the same boat. I think they're both a 7, and it's a 7 because would I smoke it again? Yes. There was nothing offensive to me in this cigar, even when I was confused, like Rooster in the very beginning, of just not getting any particular flavor notes. It got better and it opened up, and I did like the kind of cocoa coffee notes that were prevalent through most of it. I wish all of it. But to Gizmo's question earlier, of like where would this slot in? It doesn't crack my rotation because for those notes, there are cigars that deliver those far better than this cigar does. Why it also though, why I give it why I'm lenient with it is $10 is a phenomenal price point.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
The cigars that I'm saying beat it for those flavor notes, right? We're talking about like a Davidoff Millennium and the cocoa notes I get, and that's like a $28 cigar. We're talking about a Padron Exclusivo, and that's like a $15 cigar. So I have to give it credit for $10.
Mhm.
It delivers an enjoyable experience, just not enjoyable enough to crack my rotation or something that I would pursue outside of being in a cigar shop, having to buy. And if I saw that and not one of my usual suspects, I would pick that up.
So I'm in the same place. I don't need to, reiterate what you guys just said. It's a 7 all day for me.
Mhm.
I thought the cigar was interesting. I thought it was a little muddled in the fact that we couldn't pick out those distinct flavor notes. I do like the fact that it was $10. I think if it was 15 or 20, my rating would be significantly less.
Oh,
Factoring
yeah.
in value there, it's like I have to factor in value versus the cigar we had. I do like the amount of tobacco in it. I like the length of the smoke. I thought the combustion was very good for even having a resistant draw on a Robusta like that, which is a little unusual for non-Cuban New World cigars, to have a resistant draw, to have the kind of combustion that we did where we didn't have to fight it, and the time value of it for $10, that's why I'm definitely at a 7.
I haven't seen no one relit that cigar.
No
touch-ups at all.
I don't think there was a single touch-up all night.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's a merit.
Pagoda.
Yeah, so I'll give it a 7 as well. And I thought, like I mentioned before, I think the pairing was, I think, very, very, it kind of worked really well. And the two things I would like to say is that if ever, there are a lot of people I end up meeting who are smoking cigars and they're trying to understand distinctive flavor notes and how you smell. This is one cigar, if you really want to get an idea of what barnyard really smells like, put the foot on the nose, smell the cigar, and you will know distinctively that it's very barnyardish in smell.
The wrapper,
Yeah. And the other thing is, I think about 1.5 inches in to close to 2 inches, you'll find a very distinctive, the sweetness and the coffee flavor. And then obviously, I think in my case also, it kind of dissipated a bit. But yeah, meaning in terms of the overall construction and the burn, it was fantastic.
The middle of the cigar was
great,
enjoyable.
Yeah,
too.
very
was.
enjoyable. Yeah,
It was. Yeah.
That was the best part of the cigar.
Yeah. Bam Bam.
Yeah, I think it's 7s all around, honestly. The mocha in this was different than most other cigars provided when they do provide a mocha flavor or aroma. And for me, it was compelling enough to give it that rating. And it did finish off pretty nicely. It was smooth, not a single rough edge. The first third, though, was pretty tough. I didn't enjoy that. But, we got through it, and pretty enjoyable cigar. 7.
Yeah. So, boys, the formal lizard rating on the ADVentura, the Navigator and Pinzon, is a flat 7.0.
Yeah. Mild recommend. And I like what Pagoda said. This is a great cigar for a starter. Guy or gal just getting into the hobby.
It's something we haven't talked about, and Pagoda makes a really good point, is using a cigar like this. Like you said, it's a mild recommend at 7, right? But using a cigar like this to develop your nose, develop your palate, is a really interesting kind of point to say, you know what? These guys talk about barnyard all the time.
Yep.
Puba jokes about the bad end of a horse at the track or something. That's what you're getting on the wrapper of the cigar more distinctly maybe than anything we have ever gotten. So that's a really good point from Pagoda is like
it is.
Using a cigar like this to develop your nose and develop your palate.
What's compelling about this cigar is the rate of smoke. So you got to watch how quickly you go through this. If you take your time with it, you'll like it.
I mean, we're at an hour, almost an hour 40.
Yeah.
And it's like to get that out of a Robusto is pretty shocking, actually.
And there are a lot of... Go ahead.
I would just really emphasize what Bam said there because I actually think I've never had a cigar
Neither have I.
that is as sensitive to how quickly you're smoking it as this cigar is. I mean, we say with every cigar, you need to take your time to fully appreciate the flavor. That's just a tenet of smoking cigars. But when you smoke too fast, with any cigar, sure, you notice the flavors start to get muddled, but you still get some notes. I mean, with this, if you smoke too fast, you're just going to get nothing. It's just tobacco.
Yeah.
I've never had to so purposefully slow myself down to fully appreciate the cigar.
Absolutely.
And that can be frustrating, but I just think, it's worth it in the sense that there are good notes you'll get out of it, but it's just really important for the listener to keep in mind if you try this cigar.
Yep. It's a good learning tool for a lot of guys and gals getting into this.
Yeah, and for only $10 too. I mean, you can't beat it, right?
It's great.
Can't beat it.
The last thing that's surprising, we talked about the barnyard note on the wrapper. I got no barnyard in the actual flavor of the cigar.
No,
Zero.
zero. Yeah.
Which I was happy about. So this is where,
Very true.
Grinder loves barnyard in cigars. I honestly don't.
I kind of too. A little bit.
Really?
Just a touch of it.
I was glad I didn't get any on the actual draw.
Yeah, I'm glad. Well, for how pungent it was,
What does
I'm
Puba
glad
say?
it didn't translate.
Horsefoot?
Horsefoot.
Yeah.
That's it, horsefoot. This was a horsefoot
Oh, my
cigar.
gosh.
If you want to know what Puba's talking about when he says horsefoot, this is the cigar for you.
Just on the wrapper.
Just on the wrapper, not on the actual smoke itself. All right, boys, a great night. So on the Old Forester 1910 Old Fine Whiskey, we had a 6.8. And then on the ADVentura, the Navigator and Pinzon, we had a flat 7.0. Great night. Good way to end the year. And next week, we'll see everybody for our New Year's special. All right, boys. We'll see everybody next week. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for joining us. You can find our merch store and ratings archive at our brand new website, loungelizardspod.com. That's Lounge Lizards, lizardspod.com. Don't forget to leave us a rating and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. If you have any comments, questions, if you want to reach out, say hello, tell us what you're smoking, email us, hello@loungelizardspod.com. You can also find us on Instagram @loungelizardspod. We really appreciate your time, and we'll see you next week.